today? Because I'm blue-eyed.
It's called the blue-eyed, brown-eyed exercise, first done back in 1968. A white teacher in Iowa separated her all-white classroom into two different groups based on eye color, only giving half of them certain advantages to help them understand what discrimination feels like. And joining us now is that teacher, Jane Elliott. Good morning, Jane. Thanks for joining us this morning. Great to have you.
Good. Oh, it's delightful to be here. What can I do for you?
So, Jane, for those not familiar with your work, can you explain what you do?
I create a microcosm of society in a third grade classroom or a boardroom or a lecture hall, and I separate people according to a physical characteristic over which they have no control, which is the color of their eyes. What I do in a classroom is exactly, based on eye color, is exactly what we do every day in this country based on skin color.
And you have been a diversity educator ever since. You've been educating people at corporations. You were on the Oprah Winfrey Show. Your famous exercise, the blue-eyed, brown-eyed exercise, when did you first start it?
The day after Martin Luther King Jr. was killed. I had to try to explain to my children why Martin Luther King Jr. was out in the street, what he was protesting. I knew they wouldn't understand it if we talked about it. We talked about it, and they didn't understand because all they knew about black people were the kinds of things that their parents said about black people in their home. So I decided that I couldn't just talk about this. I decided that, as a great John Dewey, a great educator, said, we learn by doing. And I thought, all right, today, kids, you're going to learn by doing. You're going to find out how this feels by being on the receiving end of it. If you don't know what it feels like, you'll never really appreciate how bad it is or how badly we need to put a stop to it.
And 50 years later, your lesson lives on. But 50 years later, racism is still very real in the world. What steps can we take to try and fix this problem that never seems to be ending?
We have to educate the educators. You can't teach what you don't know. And in this country, in every country in the world, we have been indoctrinated with the myth of race. There's only one race on the face of the earth, and that's the human race. It's time for us to start referring to the human race. All these red, black, whatever you want to call them, are color groups. They are not races. We are all members of the same race. You are my 30th to 50th cousin, whether you like it or not, because we all have the same ancestors back there 300,000 to 500,000 years ago. That's a fact, and it's time for us to start teaching that and get over this crazy idea that was created in the 500 and 600. We need to stop thinking the way we did in the 5th and 6th century, 15th and 16th century, and get over this nonsense, and get over it now. We could. Human beings created racism. I think a God created the first human race, but human beings created racism. Anything you create, you can destroy. It's time for us to destroy the idea of races, different races. There's only one race. And a great playwright said one time, no power on earth can stop a man with a dream or an idea whose time has come. Martin Luther King Jr. had a dream. We tried to stop it by telling him the dream is still alive. The idea of one race is an idea whose time has come, and no power on earth is going to be able to stop it.
Jane, I feel like I could talk to you for hours, and I really like the idea of being your 30th or 50th cousin. Unfortunately, we are out of time this morning, but thank you so much for joining us this morning. So lovely to have you and so lovely to see you.
You're most welcome, and thank you for having me.
All right, that is Jane Elliott. She is a diversity teacher in the U.S. We'll post this interview online. We're going to take a break. We'll have more Breakfast Television coming up. Stay with us.